welcome to AboutFACE Theatre presents 5 Questions With, and today's guest, Ewan Downie. Ewan is a director, performer, teacher, and writer. He is also the joint artistic director of Company of Wolves, a laboratory theatre company based in Glasgow, Scotland, whose work is inspired by 8 years that Ewan spent immersed in theatre in Poland, including working with the acclaimed company Song of the Goat on a number of shows that toured internationally and won a number of awards. Some of his most recent projects include Achilles, 7 Hungers, and the upcoming Julius Caesar. Ewan, you're very welcome.
Thanks for having me.
It's great to see you. So, Ewan, we're going to jump in and ask you first, what play or experience first got you into theatre?
Well, I think it's a kind of a twofold thing. Mm-hmm. So my family had this sort of weird tradition of doing little performances. This is from my mum's family had this as well. So my mum used to do these things with her brother and sister, where they had the pantry in their kitchen. They would hide in the pantry, and then they would like stick a hand out and say, "This is a show about blah blah blah," and then they would come out and do a show. And we had a pantry in our kitchen, and we used to do that as well. And it's sort of, and then I think there was also stuff that we did around. There was a kind of curtain in the door of the kitchen, and you would that was the theatre curtain, and you would come and do a thing. So that's kind of always been part of my life. And the other thing is that I grew up in Glasgow, going to the Citizens Theatre in the period when when Giles Havergal and his 2 co-artistic directors were in charge. And it took me a long time to recover from that, actually, is that I used to go to, after I went to see all these shows when I was like 8, 11, 13, all these really quite experimental, really challenging pieces of theatre. And I used to, when I left Glasgow, I would go to the theatre in Edinburgh and London, and I'd be like, what's wrong with, why is this so boring? Why? And it wasn't until I was much older that I realized that my eye had been irretrievably warped by growing up going to the Citizens and seeing, like the original production of Trainspotting with Ewan Bremner naked pretending to inject heroin into his penis and things like that.
Yeah, a little different than your average West End show. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, fantastic. Cool. Okay, so besides Trainspotting with Ewan Bremner injecting heroin into his penis, what is a great play that you love and why?
God, it's quite. That's a hard question. I mean, it's almost as bad as what's your favorite play. I think someone asked me earlier on today about my favorite Shakespeare, and I think my favorite Shakespeare is King Lear, and I couldn't really tell you why. I think I like the fact that it's messy. I mean, all Shakespeare's are kind of messy, but some of them are messier than others, and Lear is quite messy. And you wouldn't probably do the whole thing, and there's a bit of an argument about what version of the text and stuff. And I like that gives you sort of room to maneuver. And I just love some of those Lear speeches. I think they're amazing. And I was lucky enough to work personally with Kristen Linklater over around about 10 years, really, on and off, until she died a couple of years ago. And she did, in fact, perform King Lear at one time in the US, and she used to occasionally do bits out of her King Lear, and I always describe it as being, it's a bit like, it looked like the top of her head just sort of opened and this kind of beam of flame came out. It was extraordinary. So I have a soft spot for that, for sure.
Cool. Nice.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, witnessing like something like that would definitely grab you. So can you tell us, Ewan, about a time in your theater life where something happened, something didn't turn out the way you expected it to?
Yeah, actually. So I directed, I made a solo show a couple of years ago. Now it's time's really weird now with COVID, isn't it? So I
know.
When did I make it? 2017, 2018, something like that. And it was, I was making it for a long time before then. So now we're talking 5 years ago. Anyway, so I started out thinking I'd never made a solo piece. All the work I'd done in Poland was really collectively based, everyone working all the time. And I wanted to see what it was like to make a solo piece. I also wanted to see if I could marry the very physical and embodied work that I'd learned in Poland with text. So I had the idea that I wanted to make a show that had used text and movement in it. But I was 100% certain I did not want to make a physical storytelling show, because every physical storytelling show I'd seen had been absolutely awful. And I mean, I think I've seen quite a few versions of what's it called, Wojciech, quite a few physical storytelling versions of Wojciech. I'm not going to see another one. Anyway, I worked for a long time. I started off with like little bits and pieces, a few sort of residencies here and stuff. And I didn't know what the story of the piece was initially. And over time, I started to realize that the material was going to be drawn from the story of Achilles, and it was going to be based on the story of Achilles. Then at some point, I realized that I was going to be making a physical storytelling show. It took some years before I realized that, and before I accepted that conclusion. And then I realized that, and I had this sort of moment of awful realization of going, oh shit, I have to make one of those, and it has to not be crap. Actually, now I think about it, it felt a little bit like realizing that I was going to be an actor. When I sort of realized I was going to be an actor, and I was like, oh, like, it was really, as soon as I realized, it was really, really obvious, and I knew it was absolutely true. And at the same time, I thought, oh God.
That sinking feeling. That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, so you are very much a theater artist. So what is it that keeps you coming back to the theater? What moves you? What excites you about theater?
What has always drawn me to the theater is something that I think that all of us sense in moments. Usually it's just in moments in the best theater shows, that there is something that something happens that is transcendent, or and in a kind of really non-religious way, spiritual, or maybe it is religious, I don't know. And that it's that possibility of something happening, a kind of mystery that connects all of us and connects us to something bigger than ourselves. That's what keeps me coming back. That's what I go looking for, and that's why I'm really intolerant audience member. Not of student work, but what I'm really intolerant of is lack of ambition. Actually, I'm not intolerant of bad work. I'm intolerant of work that is where the ambition is, let's just put on another play, or a reasonably interesting story competently told. That's if that's all it is, then count me out. But a really glorious catastrophe, I'm very up for. And one of my teachers in Poland, he was one of Grotowski's leading actors, Zygmunt Moloch, he used to say, sometimes the Holy Spirit comes, but most of the time it's very well done.
Nice.
That's great.
Nice.
That's excellent.
Great.
So is there, a skill through, because you've obviously done a lot of, different aspects of, physical theater, all, and training and all that. So is there any skill from theater that you have found useful in the rest of your life?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I also think that's another thing that I suppose that keeps me coming back as well is that I think too little is made of this in theatre. I think that theatre is a lab in which you can change your life, and in which you can become a more complete person. And I think it's certainly done that for me. And I'm not the same person that I was. Hopefully better, certainly happier. And I think that there's a kind of ability to listen, and a kind of ability to be calm inside emotionally fraught situations that that you can get through performing and through making work, and also I think an ability to actually to work really collectively. I think that's something that we really lose, that like we really need now, is the ability to not have, like, people talk a lot now in theatre and probably in Ireland but also in the UK about accessibility and about getting people into the room who are underrepresented, and I think it's fantastic. But if we don't make our practice as unhierarchical as possible, that's only a little bit of the job, I think.
Great. Super. Well, Ewan, this has been typical of you. It has been tough and brilliant and full of inspiring thoughts. But just to finish, a bonus question: can you tell us anything about what you're working on at the moment?
I just opened a new production of Julius Caesar, which has only been only 4 years in the making or something. I mean, it's delayed. All that kind of stuff. We had a baby as well, all that, in that time. So it's been delayed many times, and I really didn't believe we would ever bring it to the stage. And it is a really lean, exciting, delirious version of Julius Caesar, performed by 5 actors who are extraordinary. It runs at about 1:40, and it's just been in Cumbernauld Theatre. Next week we'll be in the Tron in Glasgow, and then on tour in Scotland, and we're hoping that we might be able to tour it beyond Scotland in the future. So yeah, that's in the thick of it with that right now.
Excellent. Bring it on, bring it on.
up to your elbows in blood, yeah.
Well, Ewan, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. It was really fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you to the audience as well. If you enjoyed the interview, please like below, follow AboutFACE, and share, because we believe theatre makes life better. See you next time on AboutFACE Theatre presents 5 Questions With. If you've enjoyed this video, please subscribe to us on YouTube, like us on Facebook, and share. Thanks for watching.